Can a brand that built its entire identity on shock ever sell sincerity? By 2025, the loudest fashion brand in the world had nothing left to say. Balenciaga once dominated the internet so completely that every show went viral, every product became a meme, and every controversy felt intentional. Outrage wasn't a risk, it was the strategy. But culture doesn't stay entertained forever. This isn't a scandal story, it's a case study. A case study of how a brand that mastered virality got trapped inside it. Because when the culture that made you famous moves on, attention turns into a liability. To understand how Balenciaga reached this point, you have to start with a contradiction. Cristobal Balenciaga built fashion like architecture. Precise, disciplined, timeless. He wasn't interested in noise. He was obsessed with form. His silhouettes were engineered, not decorated. Clothes that changed how garments sat on the body. Volumes that felt sculpted rather than styled. Cristobal didn't chase attention. Attention followed him. And then, decades later, Demna arrived and did the opposite. When Demna was appointed creative director in late 2015, Balenciaga wasn't failing. It was profitable, but it was invisible. It had heritage, it had prestige. What it didn't have was heat. The brand needed a reset. Demna delivered one. Just not the kind anyone expected. He didn't come from the traditional fashion establishment. He was a Georgian designer who had co-founded Vetma, a collective that treated fashion like performance art. At Vetma, he put a DHL logo on a t-shirt and sold it for luxury prices. It sold out instantly. Not because it was beautiful, but because it was a moment. Demna understood something fundamental about the digital age. Fashion wasn't about beauty anymore. It was about moments. Viral moments. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. Cristobal built silhouettes like architecture. Demna built reach through algorithms. At Balenciaga, he turned that insight into a machine. A machine that converted culture into content, and content into commerce. He introduced the Triple S sneaker, a deliberately ugly, monstrously chunky shoe that became the defining footwear of 2017. It launched the entire dad sneaker trend. He sold a tote bag that looked exactly like IKEA's 99-cent shopper, but priced it at over $1,000. He staged runway shows in a literal mud pit, sent models down the runway in towel skirts, dressed models as characters from The Simpsons, satirized celebrity wellness culture in Los Angeles. Every collection was a provocation, a commentary on the absurdity of consumer culture. And every single one went viral. Critics called it stunt dressing, a phrase that captured both the brilliance and the risk. The brilliance was in the irony. Demna held up a mirror to fashion's excesses, then sold it back to us at luxury prices. If you got the joke, you were in. If you didn't, that just made it cooler. And for a while, it worked perfectly. Once the machine started working, it didn't slow down. Balenciaga wasn't just participating in culture anymore, it was driving it. Within a few seasons, Demna had turned Balenciaga into the most talked about brand in fashion. Every drop became a headline. Every runway became a screenshot. Every product became a debate. You didn't have to like Balenciaga. You just had to talk about it. And people couldn't stop. The numbers followed the noise. Sales surged, accessories exploded, sneakers became status objects. By the late 2010s, Balenciaga was one of Kering's fastest growing brands. It overtook houses with far deeper histories. For a moment, it even eclipsed Gucci as the group's cultural engine. This success wasn't accidental. Balenciaga understood digital behavior better than almost any luxury brand before it. It designed for screenshots, for feeds, for comment sections. Products weren't just meant to be worn, they were meant to be shared. But here's the cost of that approach. Virality doesn't compound quietly. It demands escalation. Each season has to be louder than the last, more absurd, more confrontational, more extreme. Because once shock becomes familiar, it stops working. Demna pushed harder. Destroyed sneakers sold for premium prices. Political imagery blurred into fashion. Luxury items mocked poverty, labor, and consumption itself. The line between satire and insensitivity grew thinner, and fewer people laughed. At first, the backlash didn't matter. Controversy still drove traffic. Outrage still converted to sales. But something subtle began to change. The tone of the conversation shifted. People weren't asking, "Do you get it?" They were asking, "Why does this exist?" Irony fatigue set in. The joke had been told too many times, and repetition exposed the mechanism behind it. Once audiences recognize the formula, magic disappears. Balenciaga had trained people to expect provocation. Now they expected it on schedule. Shock became predictable, and predictable shock is just noise. Meanwhile, luxury culture was shifting again. After years of maximalism, logos, and spectacle, the mood cooled. People began craving discretion, craft, quiet confidence. Brands that whispered started to feel powerful again. And Balenciaga didn't whisper. It shouted. The contrast became uncomfortable. What once felt rebellious began to feel aggressive. What once felt clever began to feel forced. And when irony stops feeling playful, it starts feeling empty. Still, the machine kept running. Collections released on schedule, campaigns dropped on cue, social feeds stayed active. But momentum is not the same as direction. And Balenciaga was moving very fast, without knowing where it was going next. Because the next phase wouldn't be about boredom or fatigue. It would be about consequence. The moment consequences enter the room, everything changes. Balenciaga had spent years training the world to expect provocation. But provocation only works when people trust the intention behind it. And trust is fragile. When the brand crossed from irony into discomfort, the response was immediate. Not confusion, rejection. Campaign imagery sparked outrage that couldn't be brushed off as misunderstanding. This wasn't fashion Twitter arguing. This was mainstream backlash. Sponsors pulled back. Celebrities distanced themselves. Consumers stopped defending the joke. For the first time, virality didn't translate into demand. It translated into silence. And silence is deadly for a brand built on noise. Balenciaga issued statements. Apologies followed. Campaigns were removed. But something irreversible had happened. The spell was broken. People were no longer asking what Balenciaga meant. They were asking whether it deserved attention at all. Internally, the pressure intensified. Kering wasn't interested in cultural experiments anymore. It wanted stability. Balenciaga had gone from being a growth engine to a liability overnight. And luxury conglomerates don't tolerate unpredictability when it threatens the portfolio. The brand attempted to course correct. Collections became quieter, logos softened, messaging turned inward. But walking back shock is harder than creating it. Audiences don't forget the feeling of betrayal, especially when the relationship was built on provocation. Sales slowed. Not dramatically at first, but enough to worry investors. Foot traffic dropped, online engagement cooled, resale values softened. Signals luxury watches closely. At the same time, fashion culture moved on with unsettling speed. Quiet luxury wasn't a trend anymore. It was a correction. Brands that focused on cut, fabric, and longevity gained credibility. They didn't need to explain themselves. Balenciaga, by contrast, had to explain everything. Every look, every reference, every intention. An explanation is the opposite of desire. Luxury works best when it doesn't ask for permission. Demna faced a reality few designers ever admit. The language that built the brand could no longer save it. Shock had reached its ceiling. There was nowhere left to go without repeating or offending. Both were fatal. This wasn't about cancel culture. It was about saturation. The audience had absorbed everything Balenciaga was offering and decided it didn't want more. That's when power shifts. For the first time since Demna arrived, Balenciaga wasn't leading culture. It was reacting to it. And reaction is not leadership. The house that once dictated conversation was now responding to it. Carefully, defensively, quietly. Because the final question was no longer about fashion. It was about survival. Survival, for a brand like Balenciaga, doesn't look like disappearance. It looks like restraint. After years of commanding attention through shock, the house had to learn a skill it had never practiced. Silence. The shift wasn't announced with a manifesto. It showed up in choices. Runways became calmer. Messaging narrowed. References grew less confrontational. The brand didn't apologize again. It withdrew. This wasn't humility. It was risk management. Kering needed predictability. Retail partners needed reassurance. Consumers needed a reason to look again. Balenciaga needed to stop provoking and start rebuilding trust. And trust is rebuilt slowly. Demna faced the dilemma few designers survive. If he continued pushing, the brand risked permanent damage. If he pulled back too far, the brand risked becoming irrelevant. So the house hovered in between, neither loud nor invisible. Sales stabilized, but they didn't soar. Hype cooled, but it didn't vanish. Balenciaga remained recognizable. But recognition isn't the same as desire. And that's the final cost of shock as a strategy. It burns desire faster than it builds loyalty. When attention is your currency, silence feels like bankruptcy. But noise without belief is worse. It erodes credibility. Looking back, Balenciaga's arc under Demna wasn't a mistake. It was a moment. A perfectly timed response to an internet-driven culture that rewarded provocation over permanence. The brand didn't misread the era. The era moved on. Fashion does that. It consumes ideas at full speed, then discards them without ceremony. Shock ages faster than craft. Irony expires faster than sincerity. And satire collapses the moment it needs explanation. Balenciaga now stands at a crossroads. It can become quieter, more disciplined, more aligned with its architectural roots. Or it can try to invent a new language entirely. Either path requires the same thing: patience. Because rebuilding meaning takes longer than generating clicks. And meaning is the only thing that survives when algorithms stop caring. Cristobal Balenciaga believed fashion should outlast noise. Demna proved noise could remake a house. Now the brand must decide which lesson matters more. If Balenciaga succeeds again, it won't be because it shocked the world. It will be because it earned attention back. Quietly. Deliberately. If you enjoy deep, honest breakdowns like this, stories that go beyond hype and headlines, make sure you subscribe.